own a dog or a cat? We can safely say that at least half of the audience here has had a pet sometime in their lifetime. I myself have never gone any significant amount of time without an animal, so I guess you can call me a dog lover. Just recently I started working at a kennel just to fill my time, and to my surprise, over half the dogs are up for adoption. Actually, the owner of this kennel keeps in touch with all the other shelters nearby, and when they get full, then she'll go over there and pick up as many dogs as she can safely house. She wants to make sure that she can give every animal an opportune time to find another home. There are so many animals in shelters or kennels that were abandoned, abused, or have always just needed a home. So today we are going to discuss the pros and cons of adopting versus buying a dog. Most people do not even think about adopting. They just always go to pet stores and find out what they want. I'm here to urge you to first give adoption a chance, and then if you still don't find what you want, then move on to a pet store. For this discussion, I'm going to focus just mainly on dogs, but keep in mind that shelters rescue all types of animals. Deciding to own a dog is a very big decision to make, and there are many considerations to think about before you go out and buy a dog. In order to make a sound decision on whether or not to bring home a loving addition to the family, you should do sufficient research and soul searching. According to Jacques Schultz, a companion animal programs advisor, there are 3 major questions that should be asked. First, how old are the members of the family? This is important because children under the age of 7 are not developed enough to know that puppies have ultra-sharp teeth and nails and do not mean anything by scratching them when they play around the house. Just like puppies, toy-bred dogs are normally fine-boned and touch-sensitive and will not take lightly to youngsters rough handling them. Don't forget about the elderly dogs. They are also frail and possibly irritable and set in their ways. For the most part, they say that medium-sized dogs about 5 months old are the best choice for young children. The second question to ask is who is going to be the dog's primary caretaker. With today's lifestyle, usually no one stays at home throughout the whole day because both parents are working and the children have to go to school, and then they have multiple after-school activities. So the pet normally becomes overlooked. As we all well know, when you do go to the pet store and take your kid with you, they're going to stand there begging you, Mommy, Mommy, I want a dog. And they'll say, I will take full responsibility of and take care of it myself. The child may do the best that they can, but there will always need to be at least one parent there to fill in the holes. The third question to ask is how much can I spend? Getting a dog can be simple or free, or it can be expensive and complicated, up to thousands of dollars. Paying for the dog is not the only expense. Now we need food every day, bedding, toys, treats, and anything else that you want to spoil your new dog with. Along with these 3 questions, there are still many more considerations to think about when deciding to get a dog. Here are a few that I found on dummies.com, such as what type of breed do you prefer? Do you want a small, medium, or large dog? How about an aggressive or non-aggressive? Hyper or laid back? Some are smart and some are a little on the slow side. Do you want a dog that has long, curly, or short hair? One of the bigger ones is, do you want a boy or girl dog? Because there are pros and cons to either one of those. Also, you need to think about how old the dog is that you're going to get. This could go on and on forever. So even with everything we just talked about, you still decide you want to bring home a dog to the family. Now you need to decide if you want to give adoption a chance or just go straight to buying a puppy. There are many pros and cons to buying a dog. So first let's talk about the pros to buying a dog. There are various pet stores in larger cities and that sell dogs, along with breeders that specialize in any kind of dog that you might want to find. You can find these places by Yellow Pages or by word of mouth. By going to a pet store or a breeder, you know that the puppies have had a good living condition, and he or she should not have any emotional issues from being neglected or abused. You will also be able to watch puppies interact with each other, so you will be able to get a sense of how playful they are. By going to a pet store or breeder, you will be sure to find a purebred dog that is registered with all their paperwork. You will also be able to specialize your search and know exactly what you are getting. If you buy from a breeder, you might also be able to meet the parents of the dog, so you know about what size they're going to get and what kind of color they're going to be. Now we can talk about the cons to buying a dog. Buying a dog from a pet store or breeder can be very expensive. When you go to a pet store or breeder, you'll most likely only find puppies who have just been weaned from the parents and they don't have any training at all. You might not ever stop to think about where these puppies come from. Well, according to Randy Green, the puppies come from something called a puppy mill. Puppy mills are basically a puppy factory farm that births the puppies, weans them from their mothers very, very quickly, and sells them to the pet stores at a cheaper price. Many breeders turn into puppy mills because they find that it makes money faster. So they learn to breed the puppies faster, and they can wean them from their mothers, thus with no regard to favorable health and temperament that the dog will turn into. Keeping these pros and cons in mind, let's think about the pros to adopting a dog. Or let's talk about the cons to adopting a dog. Pius Hawk stated that pet adoption is the loving option in the article The Unsung Heroes of Dog and Cat Rescue. So let's look at some of the cons to adopting. By adopting from a shelter, you will not have the privilege to meet the parents of the dogs and to see what they turn into. Also, you do not know what kind of lifestyle they've had beforehand. So many of them may have been abused or neglected. Another point that can be frustrating is when a dog does come into a kennel, they have to wait a certain amount of time so that the parents can come reclaim them if possible. So if you show up and you decide you want a dog from an adoption agency, you might not be able to get it at that day, and when you come back, the dog might not be there anymore. Many shelters also have their own application process to screen the people they hand the dogs out to, because they want to make sure the dogs do not come back to the shelter. So you have to pass their process, and it's at their discretion whether or not they want to adopt a dog out to you. You'll also find that dogs in the shelter may have been injured and now they have special needs. So before you take one of them home, you really need to think about it and make sure you can take care of these dogs that they need. Finally, in some states it is a law that any dog that has been in a shelter has to be neutered or spaded when they get adopted. Yes, this also means the purebred dogs. So now we talked about the cons, let's talk about the pros to adopting, which is why we're here. Adopting a dog leaves you feeling like you have just saved a life. Essentially, when you think about it, you have just saved 2 lives, because by taking one dog home, you have opened up another spot for a dog to have a home and another chance of finding a newer owner. For the most part, when you adopt a dog, you know what you are getting. Dogs start showing their personality and temperament by the time they are 6 months old, and most dogs in the kennels or shelters are about 6 months old or older when you get there, so they already have their personality set. Some say there's an instant bond between you and the dog that you bring home. So because they realize that they have a new home and are more and appreciate you more.